Malik Carter stepped out of the sleek black sedan and onto the polished tarmac of Skyport Terminal, the early morning sun spilling gold across the runway. His tailored navy suit hugged his broad shoulders, and the soft hum of activity in the terminal felt almost muted in deference to his presence. He paused for a moment, inhaling the crisp air, and adjusted his cufflinks, a simple ritual that always steadied him before any major endeavor. For decades, Malik Carter had built his reputation on precision and quiet authority. Today, he was bound for an international summit where world leaders and top executives would convene to discuss an emerging market shift. Every detail of his journey was meant to reflect the unwavering excellence he demanded of himself and of everyone around him. Sliding through the private security lane, Malik Carter offered a polite nod to the agents who buzzed him through without the slightest delay. As he entered the hushed foyer of Skyport Terminal, the marble floors gleamed beneath the ornate chandelier. He moved with the practiced ease of a man accustomed to privilege. But there was something else in his stride, a latent tension, as though he sensed this flight would be anything but routine. Moments later, he crossed the threshold into the Aurora Suite, a sanctuary of cream leather seats, polished wood accents, and linen-draped side tables. White-gloved attendants offered wine lists and warm towels as though unveiling treasures. He accepted a water glass with a grateful smile but kept his eyes scanning the cabin, taking in the quiet nods of the flight crew. The polished chrome surfaces, the subtle fragrance of lavender in the air. Settling into his favorite window seat, Malik Carter slipped off his jacket and placed it carefully over the seat back. From his briefcase, he withdrew a leather journal and a slim pen. He planned to review his summit notes en route, but first, he signaled for his customary herbal tea, an energizing blend he had come to rely on before every critical meeting. A young attendant approached, her posture tight with what looked like nervous anticipation. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice soft but strained. "We're out of the chamomile peppermint blend you requested. May I offer you a hot coffee instead?" His pulse ticked up. It wasn't the coffee he minded. It was the clipped, almost flippant way she delivered the news. "Coffee is fine," he replied, keeping his tone even. "But please, be more attentive next time." As she turned away, Malik Carter watched her hesitate. Instead of setting the cup on his nesting table, her hand trembled, and a flash of heat arced from the steaming mug. In that heartbeat, the cup tipped, and molten coffee spilled across his suit sleeve. The rich wool swallowed the dark liquid with a sizzle, and the attendant gasped. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Carter. I didn't mean to," she stammered, eyes wide with alarm, but Malik Carter held up a hand, his gaze fixed on the spreading stain as though it symbolized something far deeper than a ruined jacket. Beneath the polite veneer of first-class luxury lay a subtle disregard for him, an undercurrent of bias he had encountered too many times to dismiss as an oops. He pressed his lips into a thin line, then tapped the button at his side. "Fetch the captain," he said, voice low but unyielding. The attendant froze, then scurried away, leaving him alone with the hum of the engines and the soft rustle of linen. In the solitude of Aurora Suite, Malik Carter allowed himself a measured exhale. He smoothed the polka dot pocket square peeking from his breast pocket and refocused his mind. This incident would not be tolerated. It would be elevated not as a petty complaint, but as a demonstration of principle. Respect was never optional. It was a right he would claim, and claim unequivocally. He looked out the oval window as the terminal lights faded beneath the wings. The cabin felt oddly small now, the air thick with the anxious energy of a disrupted order. Fellow passengers stole glances, some curious, some uncomfortable. None dared intervene. Their silence only fueled his resolve. The attendant returned, nodding toward the closed curtain. Seconds later, the curtain swung open to reveal Captain Michael Turner, his uniform crisp, cap in hand. The captain's eyes flicked to the dark stain on Malik Carter's sleeve, and then to the set-jawed expression on his face. "Sir," Captain Michael Turner began, voice measured behind the barrier of protocol. "The flight is proceeding as scheduled. I'm fully aware of that." Malik Carter interrupted calmly. He leaned forward, letting the weight of his gaze fill the aisle. "I've been disrespected. I demand you reroute this aircraft to accommodate my schedule immediately." A hush settled over the Aurora Suite. The captain's jaw tightened. "Sir, our flight path is set, but I'll need to coordinate with air traffic control." "Do it now," Malik Carter said, his voice a quiet thunder, "or I will escalate this to your headquarters myself." "For a heartbeat." Captain Michael Turner searched his steward's face, then nodded stiffly. He retreated to the cockpit, leaving Malik Carter alone again with the engine's pulse. As the plane angled skyward, Malik Carter leaned back, fingers drumming the armrest in slow, deliberate rhythm. The stain on his suit felt like a badge of defiance, a catalyst for change. His thoughts turned already to the complaint letter he would draft, the media leverage he would employ, and the corporate upheaval that would ripple far beyond this single flight. He sipped the bitter coffee, savoring its sharpness. It was not a comfort, it was a reminder that power demanded respect, and respect had to be enforced. In that moment, in the hushed luxury of first class, Malik Carter felt the full weight of his influence settle across the cabin. The minor injustice had become his opportunity, and he would not let it slip away. Malik Carter settled back into the supple leather of his Aurora Suite seat, the faint vibration of the engines humming through the armrest. His fingers tapped a deliberate staccato against the polished wood, each drumbeat echoing the simmering rage inside him. This was never truly about the coffee spill. It was about the dismissive glance, the careless shrug, the unspoken message that someone of his stature could be treated as an afterthought. He recalled the look on Evan Bryant's face, a flash of panic, then rehearsed politeness as the young attendant had offered the steaming mug. Malik Carter had seen that same hesitation in boardrooms, in conference halls, people accustomed to bending over backward for everyone else, but balking when confronted. Now, here at 30,000 feet, he would set the record straight. Around him, the other passengers shifted in their seats. Some stole furtive glances, others avoided eye contact altogether. The Aurora Suite's ambient lighting softened their expressions. But Malik Carter felt the tension coil around him like a tightened cable. He had built an empire on precision and unwavering standards he expected everyone in his orbit to meet, especially those entrusted with his comfort. He let his gaze roam the cabin. Polished surfaces caught the gentle glow of overhead lights. Folded napkins lay waiting like silent sentinels. Every detail screamed luxury. Yet beneath the gleam lay something brittle and flawed, a creaking deference that snapped under the weight of misplaced arrogance. His thoughts drifted to past victories, boardroom showdowns where he had turned a skeptical investor into a fervent ally. Crisis negotiations where he had steered a stumbling company back to profitability. In each case, respect had been the currency once lost, impossible to regain without decisive action, and now Malik Carter knew exactly what needed to be done. At that moment, Evan Bryant returned, offering the same practiced smile. The corners of his mouth flickered with unease. "Is everything all right, sir?" he asked, voice steady but strained. Malik Carter leaned forward, the deliberate calm in his tone forging an unbreakable edge. "No," he said, "everything is not all right. Fetch the captain." Evan Bryant blinked, hesitation flickering in his eyes. He reached for the call button but paused. Without another word, he vanished behind the curtain that separated first class from the rest of the cabin. Malik Carter allowed himself a brief nod of satisfaction. This was working exactly as he planned. Moments later, the curtain swayed open again, and Captain Michael Turner appeared, his uniform crisp, shoulders squared beneath the weight of his responsibility. He approached with measured steps, maintaining the perfect balance between protocol and concern. "Sir," Captain Michael Turner began, voice low enough to spare the cabin from undue alarm, "I understand you had an incident. How may I assist?" Malik Carter studied him for a heartbeat. The captain's eyes flicked to the dark stain on his sleeve, then back. "I expect no less than full respect aboard my flight." Malik Carter replied evenly. "Your attendant spilled coffee on my suit. But what matters most is the disregard that preceded it, the careless tone, the tenuous apology. I will not be delayed or dismissed." The captain's jaw twitched. "Our flight path is optimized for your destination, sir," he said carefully. "Any change will require coordination with air traffic control and may affect other passengers." A quiet smile curved Malik Carter's lips. He sank deeper into his seat. "I do not care about your other passengers," he said. "Nor do I care about schedules. Change our course to accommodate my needs. I have urgent matters to attend to, matters you will respect or be held accountable for failing." For the briefest instant, the cabin seemed suspended in time. The soft whir of the engines felt louder, the hush among the crew more pronounced. Even the polished chrome fixtures seemed to wait for the captain's reply. Captain Michael Turner inhaled. He glanced at Evan Bryant, who stood uncertainly just outside the curtain, and then back to Malik Carter. "Understood, sir," he said, voice taut. "I will contact control now." As the captain retreated, Malik Carter leaned back, resuming his finger-tapping rhythm. Each tap was a metronome marking his dominion. The once serene Aurora Suite now crackled with anticipation of a course altered by his will. Around him, the cabin crew whispered in hushed tones. Evan Bryant stood stiffly, glancing at the floor, then darting uneasy looks at Malik Carter. The other attendants moved with forced precision, as though they had all just sensed the balance of power shift irrevocably. Malik Carter let out a soft breath. This was far more than a redirected flight path. It was a declaration. In every boardroom he had ever entered, in every negotiation he had ever led, he had asserted his influence with the same unwavering resolve. Here, above the clouds, was no different. He placed his hand on the stain now cooling on his sleeve. It was a dark blotch, yes, but also a badge of victory. The airline had erred. He had responded. The captain's intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're making a minor adjustment to our flight path at the request of one of our esteemed passengers. Please remain seated." Malik Carter allowed himself a small smile. The illusion of normalcy had shattered. In its place stood a new reality, one shaped by his command, enforced by his presence. He looked out the window as the wing dipped ever so slightly, the plane beginning its deviation. This was only the beginning. He would draft his formal complaint mid-flight, galvanize his network upon landing, and ensure this airline never forgot to treat him, and, by extension, every person of his caliber with the respect they deserved. As the cabin lights dimmed to a soft glow, Malik Carter closed his eyes for a moment, savoring the thrill of control. Above the world, in the hush of Aurora Suite, he had seized the narrative and made the skies bend to his will. Malik Carter leaned back in his Aurora Suite seat, the rhythmic tapping of his fingertips on the armrest matching the rapid beat of his thoughts. Every witness in the cabin flight attendants with stiff postures, passengers exchanging uneasy glances knew exactly who held sway. His presence had transformed this luxurious enclave into an arena of subdued tension. Moments earlier, Jordan Hayes had sent a silent confirmation the formal complaint was already drafted and en route to the airline's boardroom inbox. As the engines hummed through their detour, the wheels of corporate reckoning turned inexorably toward impact. By the time the aircraft touched down, Malik Carter knew the airline would face consequences on his terms. He reached into his jacket pocket for his phone and dialed with deliberate urgency. Draft the official letter, he instructed Jordan Hayes. Detail every operational failure, the disrespect, the haphazard service, the negligence. We demand a full written response in 24 hours, or we go public. The call ended before the assistant could reply. But Malik Carter needed no reassurance. His influence was already rippling through the media circuit. News outlets were abuzz with reports of a first-class passenger demanding a mid-air reroute, subtle hints at mismanagement that would soon blossom into headlines. A soft cough at his elbow drew his attention. Captain Michael Turner hovered there, tension shadowing his uniformed frame. "Sir," the captain began, voice low, "our course has been adjusted. We'll land at the alternate airport in approximately 40 minutes. Malik offered a cool nod. "Thank you, Captain." In that exchange, the unspoken truth lay bare. Malik Carter had bent the flight path to his will. As the cabin settled into its new trajectory, his phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming corporate number. Malik Carter swiped to answer. "Mr. Carter, this is the airline's head office." The voice crackled. "On behalf of our entire team, we apologize for today's unprofessionalism and inconvenience." He paused, savoring the hollow weight of their regrets. "Apologies won't suffice," he replied, voice smooth as silk. "I want action." He outlined his demands: structural reforms, retraining programs, a public acknowledgement of fault, or else he would expose every internal failure to the press. Silence followed. Then a more urgent tone. "Our CEO, Gregory Shaw, would like to speak with you directly." Malik Carter allowed himself a thin smile. "I appreciate the offer. Have him prepare a proposal on my terms. I will not negotiate an apology. I will accept only evidence of real change." When the call ended, he watched the cabin crew. Shoulders that had been stiff moments ago now slumped, the collective realization dawning that his influence was absolute. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, your captain again. Will be on ground shortly. Please remain seated." Malik Carter closed his eyes for a heartbeat. This flight detour was but the open and move in a much larger campaign. He turned a spilled cup into a corporate upheaval, and he was just warming up. As the plane glided toward its unexpected destination, he let the hush of the cabin wash over him, confident that respect would be restored and on his terms alone. By the time Malik Carter's private channels began to hum with action, the world outside had already gotten the memo. Anonymous leaks, carefully orchestrated by insiders on his payroll, had placed the airline's internal failures front and center: creaky operations, untrained staff, and a culture that tolerated disrespect. Within hours, social media erupted. Journalists seized on the story of a powerful executive forced to detour a transcontinental flight to demand basic decency. Share prices tumbled. Board members squealed. Within 24 hours, the airline's longtime chiefs were shown the door. Industry veterans who had once sneered at complaints found themselves answering to a new regime. Leaders handpicked, or perhaps steered, by subtle calls from Malik Carter's camp. From behind the scenes, Jordan Hayes confirmed each forced resignation and monitored the stock ticker as it sank. Then, one by one, Hitchcock-style exits played out in splashes across the business pages. Meanwhile, Malik Carter maintained his silence. He declined interviews, stayed off social platforms, and refused every request for comment. His partisans whispered that his absence only added weight to the chaos. By the time the final executive had bowed to shareholder pressure, the airline's true transformation had begun. A new CEO, Gregory Shaw, took the reins, pledging respect above all else. High above the city's skyline, in the floor-to-ceiling glass boardroom of Stratus Tower, Malik Carter made his entrance just as a hush fell over the assembled directors and executives. The morning sun struck the polished mahogany conference table, and reflections shimmered like witnesses to a quiet coup. Gregory Shaw rose as Malik Carter crossed the threshold. The newly appointed CEO's tailored charcoal suit was impeccable, but his expression betrayed barely controlled nerves. His hands clenched the edges of his chair as though bracing for impact. "Mr. Carter," Gregory Shaw began, voice pitched just above a whisper. Malik Carter raised a gloved hand, cutting him off with effortless authority. "No excuses," he said, the smooth cadence of his tone sounding more like a verdict than advice. He settled into the head chair, eyes sweeping the room like a hawk assessing prey. The tension was thick enough to taste antagonism and relief mingled on every face. "Respect," Malik Carter continued, leaning forward until the fine crease of his navy suit jacket caught the light. "That was the lesson your predecessors failed to learn. But I trust you understand. The airline's new trajectory depends on it." Gregory Shaw swallowed, nodding, "Absolutely. We've already instituted customer respect training, revised our service protocols, and established an independent oversight council. Your demands have been implemented in full." His voice wavered slightly, whether from fear or genuine conviction. It was impossible to tell. Malik Carter paused, studying Gregory Shaw for a long moment. Then he spoke. Each word deliberate, actions speak louder than words. "I'll be reviewing quarterly reports personally. Any sign of backsliding, and I will dismantle this company piece by piece. I expect total compliance." Silence reigned. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic below the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then Gregory Shaw exhaled and inclined his head. "Understood." Rising, Malik Carter smoothed his suit jacket, the gesture measured and final. With a slow nod, he pivoted and left the boardroom, his footsteps echoing down the marble corridor. Later, in his private office on the top floor of Stratus Tower. Malik Carter sat at a dark walnut desk bathed in the city's glow. On one screen, the airline's stock chart had already begun to rebound, proof that the market respected decisive leadership. On another, a live feed of social platforms buzzed with discussions of corporate accountability and the power of one man's conviction. He leaned back, eyes closed, and let the quiet settle. No raised voices, no dramatic gestures, only the steady pulse of influence. The spilled coffee had been the spark. His response had been the catalyst for an entire corporate reckoning. A single notification blinked in the corner of his screen, an incoming call from an unknown number. Malik Carter tapped the accept icon. "Mr. Carter," said a tentative male voice. "This is Gregory Shaw." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Speak. I want to thank you." Gregory Shaw ventured, voice steadier now, "Not for the apology you demanded, but for the change you forced. We're already seeing improvements. Customer satisfaction is up, morale is up, and the culture is shifting." Malik Carter allowed the words to wash over him. "Good," he said, tone controlled but satisfied. "Maintain the course." He hung up and gazed out at the night-lit horizon. Below, the city's pulse beat on, unaware, perhaps, that its fortunes had just been reshaped by a single act of insisted respect. In the quiet of Stratus Tower, Malik Carter knew his influence would ripple far beyond this one airline. The message had been sent. No one could disregard him without paying the price, and in that knowledge lay his greatest triumph. The glow from the city skyline filtered through the floor-to-ceiling glass of Stratus Tower, painting the sleek mahogany desk of Malik Carter in streaks of amber and steel. He sat forward, phone pressed to his ear, listening as Gregory Shaw's tentative apology echoed in the quiet room. "Apologies don't change anything," Malik Carter said softly, voice like polished obsidian. He watched the new CEO's pulse quicken, sensed the unsteady breath on the other end. "We both know that." A long silence followed an unspoken contest of wills. Gregory Shaw had been chosen to steer the airline from wreckage to respectability, but he now faced the full weight of Malik Carter's expectations. "I understand." The CEO's voice cracked at last, determined yet fragile. "I want to make it right. I can offer you a personal meeting." Malik Carter cut him off, unwavering. "I'm not interested in meetings. I want action. You have 24 hours to implement every detail we discussed, or I will expose everything I know about your internal failings." "On the line," Gregory Shaw stammered. I'll see to it immediately." He hung up without another word. The soft click reverberated in the stillness. The plan was in motion. Jordan Hayes had already dispatched the formal complaint with citations and evidence. Press releases were queued, primed to run by morning. Tomorrow, the narrative would belong to him. His phone buzzed again, this time. The caller ID read, "Private." Malik Carter answered. The code word granted. "Yes, sir." "It's done," came Olivia Bennett's confident reply. He allowed himself a rare, thin smile. "Excellent," he said. "Ensure the story lands in the top business briefs. Then prepare feelers for a strategic partnership with the new airline leadership. They'll come to us when they recognize who truly holds the power." As he set the phone down, the lights of the metropolis twinkled below like an ocean of ambition. Each building was a testament to someone's vision. Tonight, Malik Carter had reshaped one of the largest enterprises in the sky. Yet he felt an unexpected calm, an acknowledgement that power, once seized, carried its own equilibrium. His gaze drifted back to the screen where social media analytics already showed the first wave of engagement-heated debates about corporate accountability. Praise for a man who refused to tolerate disrespect. Criticism for a CEO who weaponized privilege. Malik Carter scrolled through comments with clinical detachment, noting the tone shifts, the rising tide of public interest. He remembered the spilled coffee, the tremor of steam that had heralded the chain reaction. What began as a minor inconvenience had grown into a corporate purge, stock tumults, a boardroom coup, and now a public reckoning. Respect had been his mandate, and he had delivered it with strategic precision. By midnight, Jordan Hayes reported that the airline's internal memo confirming compliance had circulated among senior leadership. Training programs were scheduled, departmental audits underway, customer feedback systems overhauled. Gregory Shaw's signature glowed at the bottom of every document. Malik Carter rose and walked to the panoramic window. In the reflection, he saw a man who had mastered influence not through force, but through calculated resolve. Tomorrow would test the airline's sincerity, but tonight he savored the quiet triumph of a campaign flawlessly executed. A final ring from the conference room extension signaled Evan Bryant, the former attendant turned cautionary tale. He had asked to speak, offering a contrite message on behalf of the cabin crew. Malik Carter answered without turning. "Mr. Bryant," he began, voice steady. "Mr. Carter, on behalf of Aurora Suite staff, I want to apologize sincerely. We've implemented new service protocols, sensitivity training, and direct lines to report any issues." He considered the words. "See that they follow through." He said, "I expect nothing less than full accountability." Then he ended the call, leaning back. Malik Carter allowed the city's hum to wash over him. In the changing skyline, he sensed the aftershocks of his influence echoing outward through boardrooms, trading floors, news feeds. The spilled coffee had been a spark. His response, a blaze that would burn long after the heat had cooled. He tapped the desk, already drafting the next strategic move. Respect, he knew, was never static. It required vigilance, enforcement, and the occasional course correction delivered from 30,000 feet. The world below would remember this lesson that power, once claimed, belongs to those bold enough to enforce it.